that we must put the country first and start putting unemployed people and poor people in our sights in government. Otherwise, they will be swept up into some kind of revolution by people, opportunists, political opportunists like Julius Malema.
Can coalitions work? This is a question that I posed to Athol Trollip of Action South Africa in a recent episode of my podcast. What follows is a short extract from our longer conversation. You can watch the full interview by clicking on the link in the description below. Enjoy. All right. Well, one of the metaphors that I'm quite fond of using is this idea of the wild dogs, the wild dogs being this plethora of opposition parties that could take down the ailing buffalo of the ANC. And sometimes when I read the news or scan through social media, I see the wild dogs fighting quite a lot with each other, yapping at each other's heels. I'm particularly speaking about the ActionSA and the DA. There seems to be quite a lot of enmity between these two parties. Is it possible to put aside some of these differences and work a bit more collaboratively with the eye on this prize of 2024?
I think very definitely there's huge potential for that. Whether the political parties, both or any others, have an appetite to put this enmity aside remains in the eating, because unfortunately there is a bit of that, and people are guarding their own territory. And also because some political parties are bleeding support or people, and people are coming to join this new political party, it raises that enmity. It makes people very defensive. And as soon as you're defensive, as I said earlier, the ears slam shut, and the mind goes off and the heart takes over, and passion then becomes the real defining issue, and people are fighting on the wrong level. But the wild dog metaphor is a very good one, because they're probably the best hunters in Africa. They punch way above their weight division. They are very skillful if they hunt according to the plan and they don't start biting each other. But they are very, very skillful. But I also learned in Nelson Mandela Bay that there's some political organizations and individuals that actually prefer chaos. Wild dogs cause chaos, and then they exploit the chaos. And in South Africa, I saw Nelson Mandela. We went from being the second worst run metro to the second best in 1 year. And that didn't suit the agenda of people like Andile Longisa and Bobani and various other people. So they needed to create chaos so that they could exploit the chaos. And we need to try and avert that. But to use another metaphor that I use today, because I am actually a farmer and I was in Queenstown in the farming areas, the worst thing that can happen to any family or country is, if you're a rural family, you send one of the sons in the family out with the family flock to go and look after them in the hills as a shepherd, and expecting the young shepherd to bring the flock back home safely in the evening so that the family can have a meal and milk and that kind of thing to sustain the family. But if the shepherd's in the hills eating the livestock when they're supposed to be looking after it, like the ANC has been doing in South Africa, then you've got to get rid of the shepherd, even though they might be your son. So we have got a shepherd that's been pulling into the livestock in a big way and coming home and blaming the jackals and all that kind of thing, when it's actually the ANC that have had this voracious appetite to steal from their own. So we need to get rid of that shepherd, and we need a new shepherd in South Africa, and we need to find the right shepherd. And, I'm talking about shepherd, and I think of David in the Bible. And David was the youngest son of a family. He wasn't even there. The father didn't even present him to be considered to be king, but he actually became the best king because he had been selected and he was the right shepherd. Even though he was a shepherd boy, he became a shepherd boy of a nation. So I believe that there are good people out there in all the political parties. Even in the ANC, there are good leaders that want better. And if we can put our heads together and we can cooperate and collaborate and keep our heads while all about us are losing theirs, according to Rudyard Kipling, then I believe we can make this country succeed. And I'm very encouraged by this period that we are going through of trialing coalitions at a provincial and local level, because soon we are going to have a coalition at a national level. And if we haven't trialed it at a local and provincial level, we're going to make a mess of it at the very first outset at a national level. So I'm very happy that we're going through this period of perceived enmity and fighting and jostling for positions. I think it's all auguring well for us to grow up and to start realizing that we must put the country first and start putting unemployed people and poor people in our sights in government. Otherwise, they will be swept up into some kind of revolution by people, opportunists, political opportunists like Julius Malema.
Right, Athol, one of the themes of this show is political devolution and decentralization. Why do you think that that is an important value to have in a democracy?
Well, first of all, our democracy isn't working very well because most of our political leadership structures are very titular, where you have strong leaders at the top and weak people down the political leadership chain or food chain. And then people start defining political parties as that's Mashaba's party or Zilla's party or Zuma's party or whatever, Malema's party. And that's a problem. And I think the corporate world has got this thing much better, not perfect. Some corporates don't work well at all. But the flatter you make your management or leadership structure, the better it works, because you have managers that are closer to the leadership, that are expected to take decisions, implement those decisions, and then be accountable for the decisions they've made. And I think we need that in South Africa. Our state-owned enterprises are falling apart because we don't have a flat leadership structure there. And it would be much better if there was private-public partnership or even privatization, full-on privatization and devolution in the running of those parastatals. They would work much better. So that's one thing that ActionSA is very, very strong on, is devolving power. And even at provincial level, I told you, you introduced me. I'm an interim chairperson of ActionSA, and we are not going to have an elective conference until after the election because we don't want to be infiltrated by people who want to destabilize us. We are building structures so that we can contest properly in an election. And this is the year of the branch. So we are starting from the bottom up and hopefully having a devolved structure of authority and leadership in this party rather than having a titular top-down kind of system. And we're doing it in practice in ActionSA, and I believe we would do the same thing in government, have a flat leadership, devolution style of authority.
Yeah, and if ActionSA is involved potentially at a provincial level in a coalition government, I think it would be important to have much more devolution of functions to the provincial level, so you can actually start turning places like Gauteng and other provinces around.
Absolutely. And, there's a big issue in the Western Cape now about devolving authority of the police to the Western Cape because the police are so notoriously bad under the national minister, and the ANC won't relinquish that. They will not devolve power. They're totally against any kind of federalism. And I believe federalism and devolution of power to where power is best applied is the way to go. And it's something that we would support very fully. And, we've got three spheres of government in our constitution, but there's actually a fourth one that slipped in, which is district municipalities. Well, we should either do away with district municipalities or do away with provincial governments, but you can't have local, district, provincial, and national. One of them will have to go because there isn't even a constitutional provision for one of them. So devolve the leadership, devolve the responsibility, and devolve the management to the lowest level possible to make things work.
Thanks for watching. Let's hand over to you, our audience. Do you think that coalition governments in South Africa can work? Leave your thoughts down in the comment section. Also, if you enjoyed this analysis, you might want to check out the full-length interview with Athol Trollip. That's linked over here. You can also subscribe to my other channel. That's linked over here. My name is David Ansara. Until next time, take care.